The 400-foot mark is one of the biggest milestones for any disc golfer to hit in their distance journey. And if you clicked on this video, you most likely cannot throw 400 feet. That's why I'm here. Today I'm going to be trying to give you 3 things to help you get to that 400-foot mark. And all 3 of these things are going to be things I learned throughout my thousands of hours of working on my form, taking my back game from 350 to 400 feet all the way to 500 to 550 feet. So for tips number 1 and 2, these two will work synergistically if you can learn how to do these together. But for tip number 1, it's going to be coil your shoulders instead of reaching back. And what I mean by that is you shouldn't think about it as a reach back. Now I know you've heard that before, but today I'm going to tell you why you need to coil your shoulders. So the reason you coil your shoulders is because when you coil your shoulders, it gets your shoulders perpendicular to your hips, which creates tension in your core. And if you struggle with coiling your shoulders, think about putting your back shoulder against a wall. And if you don't like that, I even think about putting my back elbow against the wall because my elbow opens up my shoulder. Obviously, they're connected. Kind of hard to put your elbow against the wall without your shoulder unless you have crazy mobility. And this will also help with your timing too. So I like to think about putting my elbow against the wall, and then my elbow also engages my weight shift. It's like opening and closing really helps my timing. But that brings me to tip number 2, which only works if you figure out tip number 1. So if you don't have tip number 1 down, go figure that out. Tip number 2, stop pulling through. Shift your weight. Tip number 1 was coil your shoulders. You get into this position. Why do you need your shoulders perpendicular to your hips? That's because you're creating this tension in your core. And this is how you're gonna release that, by shifting your lower body, which is gonna create the torque to uncoil your shoulders. And you might be asking me, how do I shift my weight? And the way I like to think about it is, first step though, you've got to have the first step down. You've got to be in this position where your shoulders coiled. And then once I get to this position where both my feet are on the ground, I like to pop this front hip forward. You kind of have to throw your back leg and back hip into it. And when I'm in this position, I pop my front hip forward. Look, my shoulders already start to come with it. Look, I'm already halfway to a power pocket. So again, first step, shoulders coiled. Second step, once you have the shoulder coiled down, go ahead and figure that out first. Second step, stop pulling through. And what I want you to do, shoulders coiled, pop the front hip forward. It's gonna bring everything through. And I quite honestly think if you can figure those 2 things out, that will probably give you 80% of your distance potential. I think those are the 2 biggest things when it comes to distance. That brings me to my 3rd point. Stop chasing form rabbits. Whenever I struggled with my form, I would find these little things I needed to fix in my form. I would go and I would say, okay, I found this thing I need to fix. I would go and I would try to fix it. 3 holes in, something else would feel weird. And I was like, oh, I need to fix that too. And so I would try to be fixing 4 things at one time, because by the end of the round, I've messed up 3 other things trying to fix this one thing. And so I kept chasing these rabbits instead of staying consistent with this one thing I'm trying to figure out. Once I stay consistent with this one thing I try to figure out, heck, I threw into a net hundreds of times a day, just on video over and over and over, just trying to figure out this one thing. And it feels my shoulder coil. I'm only focused on shoulder coil. I don't care how anything else feels for now. And then, or it feels weight shift. I'm only focusing on weight shift. I don't care what anything else feels like for now. You have to stop chasing the form rabbits, and you have to figure out the thing that you're trying to fix right now. And I think you'll see a lot better results from that. And I know that's very simple and sounds too good to be true, and yes, that is very simple, but simple is not always easy. And I can tell you in this case, it is not easy. So that's what I'm gonna challenge you to do. Single out one thing in your form that you need to fix and work on it for as long as you need to until you fix it. It can be a month, it can be 2 months, it can be 3 months. Fix it. That's what I'm gonna leave you with. Peace. Don't trust me, I don't throw far.